Good morning, Marine Frances. How are you?
Fine, thanks.
Okay, let's get started. Eliminating fear and apprehension in job transitions. Fear is universal. Fear is the most pervasive human emotions. Everybody experiences fear, and some people even say fear stands for false evidence appearing real.
Yeah.
So let's take a look at the anatomy of fear. The definition of fear in Webster includes expect with alarm. So we have set up an expectation and we are alarmed about it. So it's funny that it's the case, but it is true.
Yeah.
They talked about the definition of courage. And courage, I have seen it defined in many different ways. Some people say, well, it is not the absence of fear. It is the decision to proceed despite of the fear.
Yeah, for sure.
So it looks like fear is part of life. It may be unavoidable. So we must remember the definition of courage is that we sit with the emotions. However, we do not make the emotions of fear supreme. When we do not dwell on it, we do not feed it. Like this other teacher said, you know, I have two dogs inside of me. You know, one is good and one is bad. And I feed the good dog. I don't feed the bad dog.
Yeah.
And the last workshop we had was on confidence. So confidence is a dog we want to feed, and fear is a dog we want to starve.
Right.
Okay, so let's take a look at what we can do. What's the source of fear? Where does fear come from? So there are instinctive fears. When I step in front of a speeding car, I'm very afraid.
Right.
And if I eat some food which is sour and spoiled, for example, I would be afraid I might get stomach problems.
Yeah.
So fears are real. I mean, they are instinctive fears that we're afraid of snakes, we're afraid of danger. If somebody came up to me wielding a baseball bat, I'm going to be very afraid. I might even panic.
Yeah.
And I can imagine how much fear and courage the people had when they combated the hijackers and took down one of the flights during 911.
Yep.
So that's a display of both courage and fear.
Yeah.
So fear is real. It's justified. Lots of it it's unavoidable. That's my feeling.
Right.
Okay, now there's another source of fear, which is beliefs. I think this is the type of fear we want to eliminate. We want to prevent, we want to control, and once fear has been triggered, we cannot directly control our emotions, as we have shared in past workshops, you and I, when you help to design the material, so we can share this material and pass around the information. So we cannot control our emotions of fear, but we can control our thoughts, our beliefs, and our conditionings, which actually cause us to have the fearful emotions, right? So we will really try our best to control the type of fears that we have, okay?
Yeah.
Based on our beliefs and conditionings. Those we can avoid. Okay, moving on. Types of fear. So there are real events like we talked about, and then there are imagined events.
Right.
It's so funny. I was talking with the manager who hired me into City Group. I was there for 28 years, where I met you, where you and I both worked together. And my hiring manager was saying to me, he said, you know what? My father worried all the time. And you know, he died a worrisome man.
Yeah.
And he said over 95% of his fears never came true.
Oh,
He
wow.
was always worried about this and worried about that. And there is a tsunami somewhere in Japan. We are very sorry, but there's really nothing much we can do. You can help, you can pray, you can send money. But to ruin my emotional well-being, to lose sleep over it, to be fearful about the tsunami might come here, it's really unnecessary suffering.
That's right.
So these are imagined events.
Right.
So these are different types.
Yeah.
Living with fear in job transitions. So some of it is unavoidable, some of it is avoidable. So now let's focus on our circle of influence, what we can control, preventing fear. We prevent fear by thinking the correct thoughts, reconditioning ourselves, and create new beliefs.
Yeah.
In the Tao of Job Transitions workshop, we talked about any thought repeated long enough becomes a belief. And once you have a belief, you have faith in it. So how do we prevent the fear, which are justified?
Yeah.
Be prepared, right? So I'm worried my interview might not go well, my resume maybe is not 100% up to par.
Yeah.
The way to eliminate fear is to prepare. If I need to make a presentation and I'm worried, I'm nervous about it. Nervousness, I guess, is a type of fear.
Yeah.
I might fail, people might not like me, I might speak on topics which people do not appreciate to hear.
Yeah.
So I want to be prepared. I want to do my research. I want to meet a need, because in Six Sigma, right, the two basic principles is, one, you want to add value, two, you want to be error-free. You want to design a process to add value and to be error-free, not error-prone.
Yeah, right.
So to be prepared in giving a talk, figure out what people want, ensures that what you have to say actually adds value to the people who are in the room.
Right.
And because if you don't add value, you are adding friction, you are adding mistakes into the relationship.
Yeah.
And that's why I like to present in places where they have breakout sessions. So people choose the sessions they want to attend, and then we go from there.
Yeah.
So create options. Another way to prevent fear is to create options. I face fear. On my project sometimes I think, well, are we going to be late? What's the expectation? How many features do we have to support? What's the realistic accomplishments with the team we have, the projects we have, because we have severe fragmentation.
Yeah.
One person is fragmented working on 2-3 projects, including production support.
Yeah.
So there are various types of concern. So we work with triple constraints. So if somebody wants it faster, then we reduce the content. So it's basically time, quality, and cost. The triple constraints. If somebody wants it faster, we can add people, increasing cost, or we can remove some of the content, which decreases quality. So that's how we use the options to prevent fear of a project failing. In terms of job transition, and more, I'm thinking, like people write books, people have DVDs, people have websites. Gotta build something. You have to create something, because the time is against us. As every passing decade, there are younger people who have, many skills and who are getting paid less traditionally, who are competing with us for the same jobs. So the number of jobs are reducing, and we're all competing in a increasingly narrowing stream and becoming shallower.
Yeah.
So the game is, can we find a different place where it's not harvested, where we can create the opportunity and where we can draw the businesses to us. And based on what I can think about is, like, if you look at Bill Gates, the founder of Sun Microsystems, Facebook, the founder of Facebook, these are all people who actually just sit down and build things. The Oracle team of 5 people when they started out. So different options. So one option is, if I have 2-3 other irons in the fire, and it's likely they will be throwing off income streams, then my fear will be decreased. So these are concrete, tangible things. It's easier said than done, but we must continue to cultivate those.
Yeah, for sure.
Thank you. And defining boundaries. Boundaries is one of the most important concepts. It's not only a concept. We need to clearly understand what it is and define what it is for us, and then condition ourselves. So our automatic response, our default response is not fear, apprehension, panic, fight or flight, or negativity, despair, resignation, and so on.
Yeah.
So define boundaries. So I can only live 1 second at a time. I can only live today. I cannot live tomorrow.
Right.
I can only do one thing at a time. I cannot do 10 million things at the same time. That's actually distracting, and nothing will succeed. If I work on 5 projects at the same time, research has shown that you are more likely to fail in all 5 projects.
Yeah.
So it's best to focus the project team on project 1 and focus the project team on project 2 and 3 sequentially. They will actually allow them to succeed. The chances is higher. Okay. Boundaries. We have covered. You and I have discussed this in the past workshops. We want to say it again here to record it for, in case we pass on this information to other people. So boundaries is where do I begin and where do I end? Am I people's opinions? Am I what people say who I am? Am I the grade that I receive? Am I the job that I have? Am I the title that I have? Am I the position that I have? So how do I assign my identity? Where do I begin and where do I end? So let's apply that principle to fear.
Yeah.
If there's a real event, if the event actually doesn't go well, does it mean that I fail? So we really need to define and so when things doesn't go right, I do not become the failure of that event. I just had an experience and I learn from it and I move on. So a more desirable conditioned response to failure or rejection is, I learn from that, let me figure out what the root causes are, and I'm actually very happy about it because now it gave me a chance to move to the next level.
Wow, that's good.
Because every belief is a bunch of thoughts that you have repeated. So we need to really examine how we define ourselves in relationship to what we do and what we get in life. And we want to then recondition ourselves positively. So with every event, whether it's successful or non-successful, we come away stronger from it.
Right.
Rather than being beaten down. So defining boundaries is important. Experiencing fear. If we cannot prevent fear in a real event, something just happened, or it's an instinctive fear, it's real. Somebody came up to you and said, you do it, or I'm going to find somebody else to do it, and actually I don't like you anymore, I'm going to go and talk to the vice president about you, and we're going to get rid of you. And they actually said it to you.
Yeah.
So it's very difficult if you don't have other income streams for you not to actually experience fear. I mean, we must deal with the human factor.
Right.
We are human beings.
Yeah.
So when fear actually comes, those ones which you cannot prevent, you could not recondition yourself to have an automatic default positive experience to the fearful event, and then you end up in a soup of confusion and panic and so on. So how do you experience fear? How do we deal with it? Basics, you and I have talked about this in past workshops, but we do wish the viewers of this workshop will be reminded of the principle of relaxation. Consciously relax your throat, relax your shoulder, relax your eyebrows, and as you are focused on relaxing, even though the mind is so fast, the mind can only process one thing at a time.
Yeah.
So when you are really focused on relaxing, you cannot be panicking.
Yeah.
Because the mind can only support one event at a time. So if you focus your mind on it, that event, that experience is what you want to have. So you want to have an experience of relaxation, and the emotional response you get from that is that you are calm.
Yeah.
Okay, so focus on relaxing to create the emotional response of calmness. It's an effort, and 12,000 to 60,000 thoughts go through our minds every day, and I'm repeating these numbers intentionally for an average human being. It's very important to realize that, and that we don't think our thoughts. If you think that you think your thoughts, try to stop thinking, and you will realize that you cannot stop thinking.
You can't stop.
Therefore, you're not really thinking. It's just a river of stuff going through.
Yeah.
Which brings in a lot of fear, a lot of confusion, a lot of uncertainty, and we don't want to do that. So just get into a habit, condition yourself to be relaxed at all times. Even when I talk with you, when you and I create these workshops, when we do that, even as I'm going through it, I remind myself to relax my throat, relax my face. It's a conscious effort. But I'm mindful that I need to do that. Okay, so it's a habit, it's a conditioning, and the goal is to create the automatic response, the default response of calmness. Okay, that is the number one friend you have, number one partner, and that thought alone is worth $1 million.
Yeah.
And to say the same thing in a different word is non-resistance. That means I'm not offering up resistance to what is happening right now. Okay, they have decided to fire me. They have decided that I'm too arrogant, or I'm careless, or I humiliated her in public, and now they're gonna come and get rid of me because I have triggered, either intentionally or unintentionally, their fight or flight response.
Yeah.
Okay, they say, okay, off with his head. But we'll talk more about that afterwards. So what I'm basically saying is that based on the training that I have received from the great masters, from the great wisdom traditions, even Tony Robbins, anybody, if you just look at what they say, you disregard the emotions. What does that mean?
Yeah, how do you do that?
Yeah, it is not denial. It is not repression. It is not suppression. Emotions is not to be denied. If you deny a feeling, it struggles for life.
Oh yeah.
If you give a feeling life, it dies birthing. Okay, so it's not about it's not about denial, not about repression, because unexpressed feelings don't die; they come back in uglier ways. And people also say, "Who you are speaks so loudly that I cannot hear what you are saying." If you are feeling very angry and you go up with a smile and say thank you, people know you are being sarcastic.
Yeah.
Who you are speaks so eloquently. Nothing that you can say is more eloquent than just being who you are.
Right.
Okay? So it's not denial, it's not repression, it's not suppression. What is it? It is experiencing it.
Yeah.
Sit with it. Be very uncomfortable. Don't go run and watch a movie, talk to your best friend. Well, talk to your friends is good. If your friends are willing to help you to unburden, that's a good thing. Don't go and watch cartoon and TV, heroin, cocaine, alcohol, running a marathon. A lot of things, I mean, sometimes you need to manage your stress. That's fine. You got to exercise to manage it. But if you, when I say you, I don't mean you. We're talking about generic person, because I'm a human being. I experience emotions and I know how it feels. Sometimes I felt so stressed, I could not come down, I could not sleep, I could not eat. I mean, if tomorrow, if God forbid, a major earthquake comes or a tsunami comes, and whatever, a tornado comes, flood comes, people have their homes burned down. I mean, how can they not feel emotions in times like that?
Oh yeah.
It's unavoidable. Human beings are very frail. We are very fragile. Imagine we cannot buy water tomorrow. Imagine we cannot buy rice tomorrow. There will be panic in the city. Looting will break out and so on. So human beings, we are all very unstable. We need a stable environment to supply our basic physical needs, physiological needs, psychological needs, all that. Okay, and the moment we don't have it, we're gonna go bonkers. This is human nature. It's not you and me. This is the billions of people we have on Earth. So anyways, so we need to train ourselves when that day does come, or when we rise into leadership positions. There will come a time and people will perceive that the sky is falling. And you gotta know how to lead. When 911 hit, Mayor Giuliani came out. He was calm. They had plans in place. When I saw Mayor Rudy Giuliani speak a couple years ago, he said it's interesting. They never really prepared for a situation like 911, but they had various emergency response practices, such as closing off all the bridges leading into Manhattan, in case the terrorists were coming across with bombs.
Yeah.
And so they had all kinds of practices, different pieces, and because like what Coach John Wooden says, you want to drill on the basics. You want to drill on the basics so much so that you can execute the basics flawlessly under intense stress in combat conditions.
Wow.
So Rudy Giuliani said, I'm sorry, so the book says, They Call Me Coach by John Wooden. If you don't have the book, go get a number of his books. It's incredible. And the man passed away. May his soul rest in peace. So I was talking about Coach John Wooden, the UCLA coach, who was the winningest coach in the history of basketball, college basketball, and so I didn't mean that Rudy Giuliani passed away. So, and I'm saying this to the people who might be watching the video. I know you know this. We have talked about it in the past, but I'm just saying this to the people who might be seeing this without having had our previous conversations or watched our previous videos. So, anyways. So Rudy Giuliani said actually all these other practices were involved. So he was in a leadership role and he did a great job. And that's what we are doing. Sang-froid, composure, poise, despite of the fear, despite of the events which are very real.
Oh yeah.
How do we execute? Okay, so we sit with it. Do not react. But how can you not react? Through rigorous training, you have trained yourself how to act. That's how it works. The cops, when they are being trained, they go into these simulated environments where they turn the corner and they see a picture of a young kid, popping up behind the bushes with a toy pistol in his hand.
Yeah.
And the cop is trained not to shoot. And if you think about it, it's midnight, 1 a.m., the cop is pursuing some armed fugitives, and he pokes his head over the wall and he sees the person behind the bushes standing up with a pistol in the hand.
Oh, geez.
It's a very scary situation.
Sure.
But the cop has been trained to not shoot, to save his own life. And even the police horses, they wear those masks right around the eyes, but also people can walk up, pop open an umbrella, or a taxi can go by and honk real loudly. And I've ridden horses in the past, and horses are very flighty and scaredy animals. They get scared over everything because they are basically prey animals. Yeah. They are afraid of mountain lions, panthers, and so on. So it's all conditioning. Police horses are trained. So we are training ourselves to remove as many triggers of panic and fear as possible, so we can actually steer ourselves, steer our projects, we as project managers, and steer the entire team towards calmness and result orientation.
Yeah.
So once we have identified the triggers, we can actively and rigorously and vigorously go and recondition ourselves. At the same time, it is unavoidable we are going to have negative emotions. Like I said, they are natural disasters. If they come, every single human being is going to be hit by it. I cannot think of one human being on earth who will say, oh yeah, there was a fire and I didn't really care. I was engulfed in flame.
Oh God.
I don't think that's possible. So anyways, so we must train ourselves to be at ease with negative emotions. What it means is don't resist it. Just relax. Feel the panic, but don't act according to it. Just experience it.
Wow.
Like the eye of the storm. You move to the eye of storm. No need for fight or flight or self-medication. Do not go, oh, I feel so bad. I'm gonna go and knock myself out with Quaalude or whatever. And I'm not faulting the people who self-medicate, believe me. Because if they are not self-medicating, people say, what else would they be doing? Yeah. They might be doing a lot of harm. Yeah. So self-medication is a good thing. However, it has consequences and side effects when it's uncontrolled. So a better thing is go for a walk, go for a run if you need to, go for a swim, and just be comfortable with the discomfort.
Yeah.
Be comfortable with the discomfort. Just rest. Because why? Because it will pass. Every storm passes. This too shall pass. Everything will pass. And at the end, we are dead. And I have worked with myself about achieving comfort with death. I'm comfortable with death. I'm ready to die tomorrow, even though I have a young child. I have worked it out. I have spent decades looking at life and death and the principles of everything, and I have worked. And I'm not saying I'm smart. I'm not saying I'm good. What I'm trying to say is I have invested time to create a comfortable relationship, as comfortable as I can make it, between myself and death.
Yeah.
And that eliminates a lot of stuff. I'm sorry?
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. So, in terms of the eye of the storm, that's not easy to do. This is a trained, conditioned response based on some beliefs, which are based on thoughts that you believe to be true. Mm-hmm. You need to repeat some thoughts until you believe it's true. Then you can go into the eye of the storm. Go to that calm place. Go to that peace. People just said, okay, you're out. I don't like you anymore. Get out. You know, you insulted me. You're incompetent. You offended the teammates. Let's say, of course, we want to prevent that. I'm just creating a situation which invokes negative emotions, and then just stay calm, go into the eye of the storm and say, okay, everything will be fine. Live 1 second at a time, 1 day at a time. And what can I learn from this?
Yeah.
So it becomes a positive experience.
Oh.
I was flying to Reno to present at the summit. There were 150 people, and I never knew how many people would come to my session, so I presented the workshop, one of the workshops you and I have gone through in the past. And when we were flying into Reno, you know, there was a snowstorm, and the airplane was, you know, going sideways and up and down and left and right, and people were freaking out. And
oh yeah.
And then, you know, so some people started saying, oh, we have 50% chance of making it. Okay. And they were just going on and on and on.
Yeah.
And I'm not showing off, I'm not bragging, and I'm not lying. I just relaxed. I pushed my chair back, so I actually leaned against the seat back of the chair next to me.
Yeah.
And I just relaxed into it, and I just focused on relaxing. And I relaxed my chest, and I didn't brace myself for impact. I relaxed every single muscle in my body, and I just became like jello, became like sponge. And because I focused so much on that experience of being like the sponge cake, being fluffy like the angel cake,
wow.
I just focused and I focused. And I've been doing this for years, right? So it worked. I came out from the experience, I swear, it actually was the highlight of the flight. Because if I'm not consciously relaxing, what am I doing? I'm thinking this, I'm reading that, I'm looking at the BlackBerry, I'm preparing for my talk.
Yeah.
Which is not as relaxing as just focusing on relaxing.
Yeah, yeah.
So I'm actually able to enter the eye of the storm.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Physically. And in this case, because I've been doing it for a long time, once I was flying across the Taiwan Strait to Japan, and we hit some typhoon turbulence, like this, really crazy things, you know, like food and tray. I mean, they were flying off the trays. So I kept on eating, you know, I just continued to eat. I had trouble putting the food in my mouth, but I continued to eat. And afterwards, this American lady girl, she was in the front with her husband. She said, I said, oh boy, this is really horrible. You know, are we going to go down? She said that's what she thought. And then when she turned around, she looked at me and she said, oh, he's eating, so he must be okay. It was funny. Obviously, that's not the principle, because, you know, if I'm going to go down, I'm going to go down stuffed, right? I'm not going to go down hungry. So, eye of the storm.
Wow.
Condition yourself. In this particular case with the flight, I have conditioned myself to this particular trigger. On roller coasters, my wife was afraid to get on roller coasters. I'm 51, so she's very young, but in her entire life she wasn't able to do it. Now we have a 10-year-old child. Our daughter wanted to go on a roller coaster, so my wife said, okay, I'm going to go with my child. And I said to her, I said, just relax into it. Focus on relaxing. Don't grip, don't tense, don't, you know, just relax. Just hold on to the handle and just let it sway. Don't offer any resistance. She came off it and she goes, darn, this thing works. This relaxation thing really works. So
Wow.
It may take some practice, but when it comes to airplanes, I have already trained myself. I've got it, so I don't even have an emotional response.
Wow.
But there are many other triggers. Someone comes up to me, and I'm surprised because I have not been told. I was with one company for 28 years. I have not been told, and I haven't so far. You got 10 minutes to get out. You got 15 minutes to get out. You have whatever to clean up your office.
Oh yeah.
But I could also.
Oh boy.
Condition myself to even have a positive response to that, because any thought that you repeatedly think becomes a belief. So obviously we want to prevent it.
Yeah.
But then we said, you and I, we talked about it's cosmic. Not everything is root cause analysis scientifically. Some of it is cosmic, because if I've been mean to the cashiers, I've been mean to the waiters, I've been mean to the security guards, and I just give a whole bunch of people a lot of hell. If that actually comes back to me through my work,
wow.
I cannot avoid it. This cannot be prevented, because I have already sown the seeds.
Yeah.
When we look at life, we talk about this in some other workshops. There's work, there's home, there's friendship, there's whatever, travel, there's US, there's Japan, all that stuff. But in reality, all we have a bunch of emotions. We have 1,500 calories we are burning per day, and we burn them positively or negatively. We have 12,000 to 60,000 thoughts we have. We have maybe, 5,000 words per day. Either they are positive or they are negative. The universe does not categorize them the way we conceptualize these things. They are an indivisible whole pool of energy and actions. And everything you put in comes back to you.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so eye of the storm. Focus on next. No matter what happens. Okay, so now, we want to prevent such things from happening. We want to learn human nature, but doesn't matter what's happening. Whatever the best thing has happened or the worst thing has happened, I'm going to live another 100 years or I'll die on the next second. The focus is on next. Stay calm. Don't resist it. Just sit with your emotions and continue to focus on what you want to focus on. And the next proactive actions that you are going to take, rather than the reactive actions of fight and flight and freeze. And then depression, addiction, and all that good stuff following that.
Yeah.
Execute and produce. Some basketball teams, Coach John Wooden's teams, they can come back. They are 20 points behind. They don't panic. They relax. They come back. They take the game back.
Wow.
Some salespeople, and this is true, some salespeople, they make a sales call. No, thank you. This sucks. I don't like you. You have screwed up. They go out the door. And Brian Tracy is a sales guru. Said he has used the trick of he will open up the door again. He will knock on the door, turn the doorknob, and comes back in and says, "Oh, by the way, just another thing." And he was actually able to salvage deals that way.
Is that right?
He was kicked out the door. He knocks on the door again. "Oh, by the way, just one more thing. Have you thought of this?" "Yes, I believe it. I have done something similar."
Is that right?
"Yes, I have turned situations around by doing certain things."
Oh my
Oftentimes,
God.
yes. Oftentimes, some people say no. They have their reasons. You say, "Okay," you say no. May I understand why, so I can prepare in the future in case you have needs. He said, "Oh yeah, I didn't want to make one big payment because our company is having problems, but I want to break it up into 7 different payments, but I don't think you guys will do it."
Oh, gee whiz.
Right?
Yeah.
And so they came up with the problem, and they came up with the position and the judgment, and they came up with the conclusion, but they bypass everything else. They solve the problem by telling you no. Or let me go back and talk to our accounts receivable team and see what we can arrange.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
Learn from fear in job transitions. So when something good happens, it could be something that we did at the moment, but usually it's nothing personal. It's nothing personal. Usually it's when you bring who you are to the situation, you didn't bring who you are because of the hiring manager is a certain way. You brought who you are because that's who you are.
Right.
And when the hiring manager or your teammates, when they show up, they are not there to be a certain way because of who you are or because of you, Marie and Frances. It's because that's who they are.
Yeah.
Right? So it's really nothing personal. So let's learn from fear. Let's look at when something doesn't go right, or how can I prevent something from going wrong?
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to throw a lot of material out right now, and we can fine tune this in the future. We want to keep this within 1 hour, so I'm not really having too many discussions with you. People just want to get this stuff out, and then people can really just look at the key points.
Right.
Know the human needs. The first human need is some people they have needs for certainty. Certainty. I want to know where I'm going to go to work, how long I will be there, how long the project will last. If it's more than, if the project will end in 2 weeks, I feel very upset. Well, the project will end in 3 months, I feel, or 1 year. So people have needs for certainty. Some people have the needs for uncertainty. They get bored with the same thing over and over again. Okay? People have needs for significance. Some people, they work overtime. They are always at work because that's where they get their, I'm a hero, I'm a superwoman, kind of a thing, which is fine. I'm not make light of it, but this is a valid human need for significance, that they count, they matter, they make a difference. People have needs to grow, to learn. They always want to expand their technological skills. They want to become an expert in many things. So it's a need they have.
Yeah.
And people have needs to connect, to be loved, to belong, connection. And people have needs to contribute. I'm doing this all day long. How am I contribute this to humanity, to children, to whatever? So we understand these human needs, and we do not want to behave in such a way that some people like stability, and then if you tell them, I'm not sure if I'm going to keep you around, I'm not sure how long this project will last. If you talk like that, you trigger a lot of fear in people, and people are going to begin to jump ship.
Right.
So understand people's needs and focus on giving them their needs. Some people say if you can satisfy 2 of the 6 basic human needs, maybe growth needs, love needs, connection needs, contribution needs, stability needs, change needs, so you have stability. The opposite of stability is adventure. Their needs for adventure, their needs for significance. If you can satisfy 2 of those needs, you have a connection.
Oh, wow.
If you can satisfy 4 of those needs, then you have a bonding. You have a strong bonding. Like you and I, the 2 of us, we have strong bonding, I think.
I think so, yeah.
So we are satisfying 4 of our needs. And if you can satisfy all 6 needs, then you have a lifetime soulmate kindred spirit.
Oh, wow.
Some bosses, they leave the company, they leave the job. What happens? Half of the department leave and follow him or her.
That's right.
That's because their needs are, the need to contribute. We contribute to other people by sharing our information, by doing research. We are growing, we are learning, we are connected. We dedicate ourselves to this relationship, to friendship. You can call that platonic love. And we have needs for stability, that you have a relationship and you see the same people, you talk about similar things, you build a background. That's a need, that's stability, right? Which is the opposite of adventure. And this is also an adventure because we're doing something new. We never know what the next workshop will be. We're going to go to different places in terms of the job transitions, in terms of project management, in terms of community outreach, all that stuff.
Yeah.
So these 6 needs, if they are all matched, then you have a lifetime partner.
Wow.
Okay, know the human needs. So you don't want to go and not satisfy the needs of your teammates and your managers. And you got to find a way to satisfy your own needs when people cannot provide it to you, so you don't become unhappy and become a victim, woe is me and what is wrong, this and that.
Yeah.
And know the human behavior. Human beings, they see the world according to their own perception, and they do not. Some people are very angry. They are never angry because of you. They are angry because they are like an orange. When you squeeze an orange, what comes out?
Yeah, orange juice.
That's right. Why? Why does orange juice come out?
It's an orange.
Yeah, that's what's on the inside.
Yeah.
So when you poke somebody, something comes out. It's not because they are trying to be mean to you, because that's who they are. That's what they have on the inside. So understand human behavior, understand human nature. Because when you begin to understand your own nature, you can begin to understand the nature of other people. When you begin to understand the nature of other people, you can begin to understand the nature of all things. When you begin to understand the nature of all things, you can begin to participate with heaven and earth in the transformation of life.
Wow.
That's contribution.
Yeah.
So you're going to start a LinkedIn group on the Tao of Job Transitions. We understand the fear. We have lifeboats, and sometimes we fall into the water ourselves, but we have conditioned ourselves to relax.
Yeah.
When I went with my college buddies to the American River, I think it was, to do level 5 whitewater rafting. I didn't sign up for it. My friends signed us up for level 5, which is the most dangerous level. And one of our classmates couldn't even swim. We had to wear helmets and life vests, and I'm in this raft. I'm looking into the water. It's boiling with these bubbles, and I said, "Oh my God, what are we doing here? We're gonna get ourselves killed."
Yeah.
And the tour guide goes, "Well, tomorrow we're gonna go down the ladder. It's like it's gonna drop sequentially." And he said, if you fall out, you have to blow up immediately. Do not let your limbs flail, because if your foot got caught under a rock or something, and the water is coming down so quickly, so rapidly, you will be bent over and you can drown in 2 feet of water.
Yeah.
So you have to blow up, you don't get tangled into anything. And then he will say, okay, we're going to go through the Chamberlain Fall. The raft is going to drop like 12 to 16 feet into the fall. And then he says, if you ever fall out, you will be caught in this hydraulic swirl, whirlpool. And you won't be able to get out if you try to struggle against it. What you must do is, you must relax, go to the bottom, and swim sideways until you are free from that swirlpool.
Oh, wow.
And then he also said, sometimes when you get pulled under the water, you cannot tell which side is up. And actually you are swimming, you may actually be swimming towards the bottom.
Oh, gee whiz.
So anyways, we understand that how human beings behave, including ourselves, in fearful conditions. So we need to know how to behave, know how to control ourselves, so we don't get, like the examples I just gave, get into trouble. And we are also watching other people. They are also, unless they are trained, when they go into some difficult situations, they have a lot of imagined fear, they have a lot of concerns, they have a lot of survival fears, they have a lot of concerns. So what can we do to understand their negative, quote-unquote, negative behavior and compensate for their human needs?
Yeah.
That takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of self-analysis, because once you analyze yourself, you'll be able to understand other people. So you're looking for the root causes of fear. And then you're going to remove your triggers and you're going to recondition yourself. And then you're going to look at all the other people through those lenses, because with this in-depth work of yourself, of myself, when the waitress came up, for example, I said, okay, I'm going to have a soup, and my friend didn't have a soup, but she had a drink, and I said, oh, the soup is really good, and the waitress says, well, you should have ordered a soup. The reason she was saying that was she wanted the restaurant to make $3 more, so they can survive. So it's a physiological, psychological need, financial need that the person has, and the bigger the bill, the more tip he will make.
Yeah.
So we understand all these human motivation, human psychology, human needs, and human behavior, because we have worked ourselves through these filters and these experiences. So our response would be love and compassion, and say, yes, indeed, I wish I should have had. Why don't you bring me one right now, and I'll take my drink to go. That could be the most compassionate thing to do.
Yeah.
Because if I want people to be compassionate with me, how should I behave towards people?
Same way.
Same way.
Yeah.
Okay, self-analysis for root causes. Look at it. Is it real? Is it imagined? What should I do? Am I prepared? Am I not prepared? Am I spending my energy the right way? Am I one of those 2,000 people fighting over the same mango?
Yeah.
Or am I spending some time coming up with a new mango farm, which I can harvest, to feed myself and those people that I care for? Okay. Let the logical, scientific project managers never forget about the cosmic root causes of fear. We have parakeets in our house, and we have fish, and we have dog, we have cat, and we have guinea pig, And sometimes we do things that, myself or my daughter, we could go up and just play with the bird and bang on the cage. And the birds are panicking. They are flying against the cage. They are flapping their wings.
Yeah.
And we were in Hawaii. We were in, I don't know, Kona or Kauai, I think. I grew up in Taiwan by the rivers. I'm very good at catching fish. I can catch a trout with my hands. When I went to the Sequoia National Park, I would trap them between two rocks, and then I would just kind of go in there and snag the fish and take it out with my bare hands.
Oh.
In Taiwan, I could go to parks where people actually walked along the shore inside the water, and they would leave huge footprints. And the leaves, when they fell from the trees, would actually cover up those holes, those imprints left by the feet, and shrimps would go and hiding there.
Ah.
So I would go and just trap them. I'm standing on the shore, and I would just kind of use my hand and closely move my hands closer to me, and shrimps will begin to bounce against my forearms. I would then just grab the shrimps, and these shrimps are like as big as my palm.
Wow.
Freshwater shrimps with long claws. So we were in Kauai, and there were a bunch of sand gobies, those flatfish, little rockfish. They live in the tide pools on the rocks. So
Yeah.
I took off my snorkeling mask, and I went and caught a whole bunch of gobies, and I put them into my snorkeling mask. And then all of a sudden I realized I saw these gobies, when they saw me coming, they would jump from tide pool to tide pool, just flip and flop on the rocks. And suddenly I realized something from a cosmic perspective. I don't insist it to be true, but at my age I've come to believe it is true based on all the things I have studied. Not that I have studied a lot, I'm not showing off, I'm just saying this is my personal experience, and each person must decide for himself or herself. All these little animals were frightened to death.
Oh.
They were freaking out, right?
Yeah.
And they was bouncing against the sides of my snorkeling mask. And when I saw it, I said, okay, Jojo, let's stop doing this, because we are creating so much fear in these animals.
Oh yeah.
We're creating fears in the birds, we're creating fear in the waitress, we're fostering it. So let's don't do that.
Yeah.
Because what kind of mango, what kind of fruits am I cultivating? I'm cultivating fear of darkness, fear of so many things, fear of driving, fear of dogs, fear or whatever. Because if I give out so much fear to people and to creatures, fear will come back to me.
That's right.
If that's not what I want. So that's an example of the cosmic root causes. So we talked about modifying our conditioned responses, work on the biggest trigger first and go from there. Okay, dealing with fear from unreal events during job transitions. We have another 10 minutes, another 10 minutes before the hour is up. Dealing with fear from unreal events, life as a vision. We live all of our lives actually in our head. Dr. Covey says, begin with the end in mind, which is habit number 2. Before you construct a building, you want to have a blueprint. Before you buy a car, you think about the kind of car, the color that you want. And it doesn't matter what you do, whether you plan or not, whether you have a vision or not. Everything is always created twice. Well, I'm going to go to Alaska. And then you show up, the hotels are booked, and there are snow blizzards, and you can't go anywhere, and you're trapped there for 2 months. That's because the first creation, the mental creation, was improperly prepared.
Oh, really?
So life is a vision, as a vision, not a nightmare. So we can go around expecting the worst, thinking the worst, having fear run our lives, imaginations, projections, and just end up with a storm of nightmare. Or I can actively come up with a vision, focus on the vision, and begin to execute according to the vision.
Wow.
That's what Dr. Covey said in the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Begin with the end in mind. Think it through, plan it out, and then first things first, habit number 3. You execute according to your vision. Okay, so live life as a vision, not as a nightmare. And your mind will think, the thoughts will think themselves. And if you don't actively control your thoughts, and feeding the wrong dog in you, it's going to be a nightmare, at least as far as the experience is concerned. Because the universe cannot tell the difference between fantasy and reality, and the mind cannot tell the difference between fantasy and reality. If I'm thinking scary thoughts all day long, I will have scary emotions all day long, even though none of it is real. And that's how you create your own nightmare. Make sense?
Makes sense.
Yeah. Focus on goals. And if anything you want to add, just let me know. So focus on goals, milestones, tasks, and the tasks that we choose should again be balanced. You know, we gotta have our good skills, good interview techniques, get lots of connections, get lots of interview requests.
Yeah.
However, at the same time, we must not forget the cosmic side of it. I have a lighter, but I must have charcoal to burn. I must also cosmically create a lot of work, add a lot of value to humanity, to the fellow creatures. And that will actually allow us to go forward. Like, I may not, you know, if somebody doesn't speak English very well, but if they are the de facto expert in some subject, their chances are greatly increased.
Oh yeah.
But if they focus on improving their English, then their English is just as good as anybody else's, which doesn't really make them excellent. It makes them good.
Yeah.
So the focus here is on becoming excellent. So going back to the theory of constraint, removing the bottlenecks and strengthen the weakest link. So if the weakest link is actually having the mango in my mouth, I'm able to go into the farm. I'm able to actually climb on the tree, but I cannot pick the mango. I should stop, you know, focusing so much on climbing the mango tree, because that's not the problem. That's not what's holding me back. What's holding me back is me actually getting that mango in my hand and be able to eat it, and be able to eat it for the next 6 years, not 6 minutes. So really, really look at that. And then positive infusion. Dr. Covey said he begins every day by reading inspirational literature, things which are motivating him, uplifting. Why? Because we are what we think. Our emotions come from our thoughts. Our beliefs come from our thoughts. So he reads inspirational literature every day in the morning when he wakes up. That's how he does it. And the way I do it, I'm kind of more disorganized, non-structured. Every time I'm eating dinner, so I watch TV. When I watch TV, I watch Joel Osteen, for example. You know, it's positive. You know, the best is yet to come, abundance and greatness and promotion and increase. So all that is good. So so I do all those things myself as well. Positive conditioning. Focus on one negative trigger per day, and then try to turn that into a positive thing.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah. Live one day at a time. Live 1 second at a time. I cannot eat dinner during breakfast. I could, but I don't eat dinner at breakfast time. I eat breakfast at breakfast, and I finish that, and I eat lunch at lunch. I breathe this breath, then I breathe the next breath, and then I breathe the next breath. And then when today is finished, I will live tomorrow. I cannot live tomorrow today. So the mind needs really to be trained to stay in the present.
Oh, yeah.
Because if the mind is not doing that, it's projecting, it's grasping, it's doing all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
So work on the cognitive processes. Our time is pretty much, let me see, I think it's up.
I think it's a little after 11.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, we started at 10:12 because we were talking offline. We stopped the recording at that time. Perception. Remember our personal filters. Everything is perception. Everything is perceived through filters. I'm Chinese. I'm a father. It changes my perspective about what I do and how I should do it.
Yeah.
Right? And so I never forget I'm looking at the world through my own personal filters, and that's how I perceive the world. And that everything that I look at, I'm always projecting myself onto them. Fish discovers water last. I cannot help but to project myself onto the situation. We cannot be objective. We're always subjective. It's unavoidable. We can never be objective. We can only compensate for our subjectivity.
Right.
That's a law. So just realize everything is interpretation. And there's a lot of internalization. We have internalized a lot of stuff over the years. So we gotta undo a whole bunch of negative conditioning, negative habits, and negative triggers, and imagined unreal events. We gotta really uninternalize, express, then review and discard. Analysis therapy takes a long time, but it's a very healthy thing. So with that ended the workshop. Is there anything you would like to say before we stop the recording?
Oh no, this is wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Marlene Frances. So it's 55 minutes. We're actually ahead of schedule. Okay, I'm gonna stop the recording now. Thank you.